We're about to find out how much money I have spent to publish my books as an indie author since all the way back in December 2017. And this is 17 books if you count my collector's edition and the second edition that I did, and of course my Marketing for Authors series, the nonfiction, my children's book. We're going to talk about all the different books, and I'm going to share how much I spent individually on them and also how much I spent total. I actually don't know what the total is. Like, I know what each individual book cost, and they're shockingly different actually, but I've never tallied it all up. So we're gonna find out together. Could I go back through my tax documents? Yes, but I think it's going to be way more interesting to go back to my old videos where I shared a breakdown of what I spent and why, because I think the explanations are going to be really helpful to you. So I'm probably going to keep most of them, and we're going to watch this together to find out how much did I spend on each individual book, including a bunch of books I have not shared on video yet. Then we'll tally it all up to find out how much I spent total. And I really want to end with some common questions that I always get on these videos, such as, did I actually make my money back? Does this include the audiobook? Does it include the marketing budget? And if I could go back, is there anything I would change, or is there anything that I do differently now? I'm really excited to watch these old videos because, first of all, I haven't seen some of them in years. It's probably going to be embarrassing, but I also think they're going to be really helpful for you to see my decision-making process and also to see how things changed over time. Before we get into it, two things. First of all, I am sticking with publishing expenses only, not doing marketing expenses, even though I did talk about that in a lot of these videos, so I'll link the full videos below if you want. But I wanted to keep it publishing focused for the sake of time, because this is going to be a long video. And also because if you think about it, marketing is a lot more subjective versus publishing costs. They're still kind of subjective and they do change, but there's more standard things that you might consider versus marketing, which is kind of a free-for-all. You could do all of it or none of it or anywhere in between. So we're going to stick with publishing costs today. And number two, I still believe years later that the two best things you could spend your money on, if you are going to spend it anywhere, is on quality cover design and quality editing. This is especially true when you're first starting out, but by the end of this video, you're going to see me go through quite a transformation in how I approach these two things. So we'll get into that more in these videos, but the first video we're going to start with is all the way back in 2018 when I talked about publishing Evelyn's number, Pearl's number, and my children's book, The Confident Corgi. So let's play the video. You guys have been asking me this question for a while now. How much did it cost me to self-publish my books? These guys right here. I actually made this fancy little spreadsheet here. I'm gonna actually show you this at the end and maybe throughout the video, and basically it's the categories, all the different categories that I want to start with and talk about first, and then what I spent in each category per book. So I'm just gonna list out all the categories that I have, and I'll even flash it on the screen for you and just scroll down. I have editors, cover design, formatting, proof copies, copyright, and then the next category is the print on demand company, which I put in parentheses Ingram Spark because I personally used CreateSpace before it closed, and now I use KDP, and both of those are free. So this is like, if you were only to use that, it's free. If you want to use Ingram Spark, it costs about $50 to upload. It's like $49. And then if you have any errors, it's usually $25 to fix an error every single time. And so don't have any errors, basically, is the moral of that story. By the way, I know this is going to make the video longer, but I can't like not say it if it's going to help somebody out. So personally, I like to get my book all perfected on KDP before I even like touch Ingram Spark, and then I worry about Ingram Spark because then you mostly have it perfected and will avoid those re-uploading fees that I mentioned. But anyway, proofreading, other categories, like for the Corgi book, I had a website called Be Funky. In this first video, I not only share the publishing expenses, but I also share the marketing expenses and the initial setup of my business and how much that costs. So that's talking about like the website cost to set up and starting an LLC and how much that cost. And then also I included my purchase of ISBN numbers under the business category, so to speak, which actually, in retrospect, that was a book specific cost. So I'm going to include the business category section of this video just so you can see the part about the ISBN numbers and how much that costs, but also to give you a visual of a couple extra initial expenses when you're first starting as an indie author. They're not going to count towards my end total, but it's good to be aware that typically you're going to have to pay a little bit for things like website, potentially a newsletter, and potentially to start like an LLC or something like that. Then the last category is the business category, which is just my publishing company. first is, of course, creating the publishing company, going to the Secretary of State website and creating my LLC. And there's a couple other options for businesses as well. Every single state is different, but in Minnesota, it cost me $155 to create a company. The next category in the business category is the ISBN numbers. I had to purchase 10, and so on Bowker, the website's called Bowker, Bowker, to buy ISBNs in the United States, it was $295. And the last category is my website. So I upgraded to their premium plan with the store, and that cost me about $135. So all total for just the business side, not related to the books, I spent $585. But now let's talk about what you guys are all really here for, which is the books themselves. And I'm going to start with Evelyn's Number. Technically, the first book, Evelyn's Number, started out like this, and I had an editor that I got off of Goodreads, and she was starting out her business, so she was brand new, and she cost about $350. I didn't go back and look it up, but I think it was a little less than that, and she did by word, and it was about 100,000 words at the time. That was the first cost. And then of course the cover was one that was done by my friend who does graphic design, and she's very talented. So we worked on this together, and I paid her $200 to do this cover. Now I'm not going to list this in the total cost for Evelyn's Number because I'm just talking about the very first publishing. But when I went and did the new cover, because it was actually like in a series and I was paying for this one first, I got an amazing discount on the second cover, and it was actually less than the first one. I didn't look it up, and it is in pounds, so I can't tell you right now. I can't remember, but this was actually less, and this is the only thing that I did when I published this second edition was pay for the cover. But I'm not counting that. Coming back to the original book, and we're going to keep talking about just what I spent on the first edition. The next category is formatting. I have a whole video on formatting because I personally believe that it is possible to do yourself, but you can also hire somebody for it. So I did not pay for formatting for any of my books. I used a website called DIYbookformats.com. I'll link that below for you guys, and I'll link below my video on how to format. And in proof copies, I spent about $75 in proofs because it took me a lot of proofs till I figured out what I was doing. Formatting was intense. I screwed it up a lot. Let's just leave it at that. And then when it comes to the copyright, of course, it's $55 for every book, so I did that. The print-on-demand company, I put in parentheses Ingram Spark because KDP and CreateSpace are free. I used CreateSpace at the time and Ingram Spark, and so Ingram Spark is $50 to upload, but I had a discount code for participating in NaNoWriMo, and so it was free. I did not have to pay for that. And then the last category in this section is proofreading, and I happen to personally love using my friends and family members to proofread, so I say to them, I'm going to give you a free copy of the book in advance if you help me proofread. So they did that for me, and they read from those proof copies that I told you about, and so I did not pay anything for a proofreader. I did not hire anybody for any of my books, and that was $0 in that category. So the total for the first edition of Evelyn's Number, before any of the other expenses, just the book itself, was $680. The next book I want to talk about is The Confident Corgi. After spending that much on my first book and my business in a very short time frame, I obviously was in the mindset to save as much money as possible because this isn't even what I'm basing my career in. This was more of a side project, a very fun children's book, if you don't know. I did all the cover design myself. All of this is me. I had so much fun doing it. I don't think I would ever do cover design for my young adult books, but when it comes to a fun project like this, why not? So this is all me. I used the website called Canva, which is free. You can check out my whole series on how to create a children's book if you want to know all the details about this book. I go super in detail, but I also did not hire an editor, so that was also $0. So $0 so far. For formatting, I did all the formatting in here myself, and that was super fun. I used Canva. I did actually use a website called Be Funky to create like cartoon versions of the photos. So when you look at this, you'll see that they're cartoon versions of actual photos. Some people thought that I drew them. I did not. I am not that good at drawing. But the website that I used to create filters, cartoon filters for the photos, was $5 for a month membership. It was about $7.50 for a proof, and I think I had to do about 3 of them total, so it's about $21, $22. I did copyright it, that's $55. I did have to pay the $50 to Ingram Spark to upload this. I did not have any discounts at the time, so I did pay $50 to get this on Ingram Spark. But I wanted it on Ingram Spark for my book signing a couple months later, so I needed it on there. So that was worth it. And then I did not pay for a proofreader any more than I paid for an editor because, again, it was only like, I don't know, maybe like 100 to 300 words. So it's not like I needed that, but I did have friends and family look over it just like always. And then, of course, add the $15 for sending out proof copies. ARC copies, I should say, and then it was about $146 total that I have ever spent on this book, ever. It's all I'm ever planning to spend. And I had such a great time making this, totally worth it. I don't know if I'll make more in the future, but it was a lot of fun. I have to move down again. Now, this is probably the book you guys have all been waiting for because you get to see what I've learned, like what did I change and spend differently when it came to this book after I'd done the first book. So the first thing that's really drastic is how much I spent on the editor. I realized how important an editor is, and I definitely invested quite a bit more. I used a company called Readsy to find my editor. I did 4 payments, like a schedule, so I didn't even realize how much I'd spent till I added it up. But it was $1,129.72. Whew, yeah, that was a lot. And honestly, I'm just gonna tell you guys, I think that especially with your debut novel, an editor is extremely valuable, extremely worth it, especially just to catch things that you don't know about. But now that I've done 2 editors and I realize that I have a background in editing, I actually went to school originally to become an editor and then I pursued other things. So I have a lot more training than most people, so I don't know what I'll do in the future, but I might go some more some cheaper routes because that was intense. But I don't know, it's also very worth it. And like I said already in this video, your cover design and your editor are my top 2 priorities anyway, like the ultimate most important things to make a quality book. So I don't know, I think it was worth it, and I'm excited to hear what you guys think because she helped me out. But I did send her a really, really clean copy as well. And the next category is cover design. As you know, this beautiful cover was made by 8 Little Pages, and they also did redesign the first book so that they look like this together, and they look amazing. But like I said, they're in the UK, so they were in pounds and I had to translate to dollars, and so I don't know if this is exact anymore because it's been a while, it's been a few months, it might have changed, but it was about $285 for this cover. And you guys already know that I did the formatting myself. The map made me have to order a lot more proof copies, and I still have another one coming. This is not even the final because of how close it is there. But yeah, this is a proof copy, and I spent quite a bit. I spent about $70 on proof copies. And then in the copywriting category, of course, I spent $55 again to copyright Pearl's number. Fortunately, I did get another code for the print-on-demand company. They occasionally will just put up codes as well for free upload, so I was able to upload Pearl's number for free, and then I was able to get a code when things went wrong, and I also managed to get all those re-uploads for free. Thank goodness, because there was more than one. That could have been really expensive, all those changes. And then, of course, proofreading. I asked family and friends again, and I did send out ARC copies to those people who agreed to help me out, but I'll include that in the next category. So I spent $0 on a proofreader. Okay, adding that up for just Pearl's number all by itself, I spent $1,540. Next, let's take a look at my 4-book fantasy series and find out how much I spent on those 4 books. And spoiler, it's a lot more. You know I have to do a video with the book castle before it's gone. Let's talk about how much it costs to publish a fantasy series. These exact books right here. I'm gonna talk about exact numbers. I'm gonna walk you through a spreadsheet and show you exactly what I spent to get these books published, and I'm going to need my laptop for this one. I am going to go through the numbers with you. I'm going to be pretty quick about it and just share what it is, why I bought it, what I paid. But I do have a tiny bit of like tea, I guess is the word, story time about one thing that
It was a very large expense that I shouldn't have had to have, but we'll get to it, we'll get to it. All right, so it started back in October of 2018 when I first hired a cover designer. I hired a company called 8 Little Pages that no longer exists. We'll get into more on that in a minute, but I started out doing a down payment, which was $587.34. So I was paying for 4 covers, but the down payment was half. So you can see in this little grayed out spot there that I put like what that would be per book. It was roughly $293. Now they were in the UK, I believe, so it was in euros and the exchange rate has changed a little bit, but I think it was roughly basically about $300 in US. Then in April of 2019, which holy cow, that's a long time. That's over 6 months, I think. I probably hired my editor sooner, but I paid my editor the first down payment for The Stolen Kingdom, which was $305.46. May 2019, a month later, I paid my editor the second payment, which was the same amount. And in July 2019, I filed a copyright for The Stolen Kingdom, which was $55. Also in July 2019, I bought ISBN numbers and I did the pack of 10. You can get like 1 or 10 or 100, and so I decided to go for the 10, which was $295 for all 10. But of course you got to break that down, so it's roughly $29.50 for each book. Let's just say it's $30 roughly for each book, and you don't have to use them on ebooks anymore, which is so nice. So I use them for paperbacks and for hardcovers. 2 ISBN numbers per book in the Stolen Kingdom series, so it's roughly $60 actually, not 30, but we'll say 30 per ISBN used. So then I published in August, so then we jump right into the Ginny Key, which has its first payment in October of 2019. I hired my editor at the time, which is not a good situation. We won't get into that, but that was $484.80. And then after that, I copyrighted it in December 2019 when the book came out. Okay, I think this is where the tea happens, so let me just explain really briefly. So I think I kind of hinted at this at the beginning, but 8 Little Pages, my cover designer at the time, went bankrupt. They disappeared. I had been trying to reach them. Nothing had been happening. We had finished the 3rd and 4th front cover, but we did not have the spine and the back cover, so the full wrap is what that's called. And I was panicking, you guys, because I was like, where did they go? They fell off the face of the earth. I couldn't reach them. And I very quickly found out, not through them, but through their website and through author friends who were kind of stalking it and were like, hey, did you hear what happened? I found out that they had went bankrupt and shut down and they were just done. They were like, sorry, no more covers for you. This ended up being a good thing actually, but I definitely panicked. And so I've done videos about my book covers. I actually have a whole book cover playlist if you want to check it out. But I have done this video about why book covers change, where I kind of hinted at my reason and I shared some other reasons that are very legitimate. And then I also did this one, which was the evolution of my new covers. But the short version is I was panicking, you guys. I really thought like there's no way that I can continue the covers in the series. So I freaked out and I started talking to my friend Mandy Lynn at Stone Ridge Books, who does cover design, and I hired her so fast. I was like, I need you to help me rebrand the series, get a new set of covers, and we need to do it ASAP because I think I'm gonna need it desperately. So that was January 2020. I paid Mandy $95 for a down payment for The Stolen Kingdom to be recovered and redone, and I was gonna kick it off. We were gonna do all 4 books together. We had a plan. Then Mandy's hard drive got wiped. Her business was just thrown through this huge loop. She was like, oh my gosh, I actually can't even work on a cover right now. I'm so sorry. And I was like, no worries at all. I completely understood. And I was like, do what you gotta do. Don't worry about me. I'll be fine. But of course, I was still panicking about my covers in general and not sure what I wanted them to be. So I was doing research. I was looking at comp covers. I was figuring out that actually, I think I wanted a person on the cover because indie books sell better with a person on the cover. And I was learning so much about covers. I was, again, creating a bunch of comp, aka comparison covers, to try to get a really good feel for what I wanted. And I ended up stumbling on this website called 99 Designs, where you could get supposedly 99 designs. Now, I did not get that many. Spoiler, I got closer to, I think, 60 because I chose a very small package. A lot of the designs freaked me out and I was like, oh my gosh, Mandy, I'm so sorry. I made such a huge mistake. I didn't mean to do this. But then some really good ones started coming through. Then this cover came through. This is the cover that I ended up paying for right here, and I paid $304 for this front cover only. That was an expensive front cover, but it ended up being perfect because it ended up helping me to keep the process going without bothering Mandy in a very stressful season of her life, and so it ended up working out really well. So then I did also my first editor payment for the Cursed Hunter, which was to my editor now, Natalia Lee. And it was a small book at the time, so the down payment was very small. It was a $160 down payment. After that, in March 2020, Mandy was able to get back to work, so we started doing the cover design payments, and I think this is actually the second half of the Stolen Kingdom payment, which is $105. Then March 2020, we did another cover design, and I think this one might be actually the Jenny Key. I put in gray because Mandy and I were doing overlapping books at the same time, and so the payments are all confusing. But it was another $200. I just used my tax sheet to track this. And then there was another one, and this I know for sure was the hardcovers for books. I think it was 2 and 3, $150. And that was $75 per hardcover. I know that there were 2 hardcovers in there. In May 2020, I paid the second payment to my editor for the Cursed Hunter, which was $231.45. And then June 2020, I paid another cover design payment to fix the original cover. So coming back to that sort of tea time with 8 little pages, Mandy figured out that she could fix the original covers and she could fix them and add the spine and the back cover. So this changed everything because I had had readers asking me and they were so sad. They were like, why are you not keeping the original covers? And I didn't want to be that doom and gloom author who's like, my cover designer went bankrupt and I'm really angry about it. I didn't want to be that. And I also still really love the original covers. They're beautiful. And so I was so excited when Mandy was able to fix them, and she just asked for $50. She's the best, you guys. And so that was $50 to fix the Cursed Hunter. June also, I copyrighted the Cursed Hunter. I'm gonna have to scroll here. In August 2020, I did another cover design payment to Mandy. Again, $50 to fix the original for book 4. So she fixed that one for me as well. And then also August, I did an editor payment, my first payment for the Enchanted Crown to my editor, Natalia Lee at Enchanted Ink, $330. Also in August, I did a lot of payments in August. There was another, and I think this is the final cover design payment to Mandy, which is $225 for the Enchanted Crown, and that was all aspects of it, ebook, paperback, hardcover. I got the original client discount still. Mandy is the best. I think her prices have gone up, but she's still amazing. Still would highly recommend. And then there's still a few more coming. February this year, last month, I did my, oh, sorry, that should say second payment. Second payment to my editor for the Enchanted Crown, which had grown by at least 20,000 words, if not a lot more than that, since I had given Natalia, and I think it was actually 40,000 words, since I had given Natalia that first word count, like a general estimate. So the second payment was obviously going to be a lot more because the word count had gone way up. So it was $674.57. This is the last one before I show you the total. Copywriting is $55. And now, are you guys ready? Drum roll, please. Total spending for the series was $4,714.08. That is a lot. That's almost $5,000, you guys, to spend on a series. Now, this is something I wanted to share. Keep this in mind. If you subtract the new cover costs, if my cover designer had not gone bankrupt and I hadn't had to go down this path of new covers, which honestly now I love it. I'm so glad that I have them, so it worked out and it was amazing. But just for the sake of an argument here, the total would have been $3,535. That's what it would have been. That's roughly that like 800 something per book, pretty much, if you average it out. Also, I wanted to point out that I did the formatting myself, so that saved me money. I did have one proofreader at one point where I paid $100. And then there's the audiobook. So if you included the audiobook and then other expenses, like say the computer that I had to buy, or my website that I pay annually for, or shipping costs when I send out books, or marketing like flyers and Amazon ads and BookBub ads and promo and deal sites and all these other things that I've done on the side above and beyond the actual publishing itself, then it would be even even more. This is a rough breakdown of how much I spent per book. I hope this gives you kind of a rough estimate. I hope that I grabbed all the right columns for that. Some of them were obviously lumped together, so it got a little bit confusing. And then I also wanted to break down where things were going. How much went to covers, how much went to editors, how much went to copywriting and ISBNs and all that goodness. So this is a fun little chart here. Oops, that's the wrong one. That was for the books. Can you guys tell that I don't use the spreadsheets very often? Here we go. That other one was for books. This one is for a graph thing. I just learned how to do this, so I hope I did it right. But this kind of gives you a visual breakdown of where the money went to. And that, my friends, is how much I spent to publish a fantasy series.
After the Stolen Kingdom series, I then went on to publish the first edition of The Secret Gift, which at the time I thought was going to be a standalone novella set in the same world. The dollar amount and the story behind this one is really, really fun because this was kind of a turning point for me because I started to realize that instead of spending money, sometimes you could also spend time and build up networking connections with other creative people who had skills that you don't have and kind of do trades instead of spending money. But instead of me trying to re-explain it to you, let's go back and take a look at the original video. Happy release day! Cheers! I thought I'd do something really fun and share my publishing costs and a breakdown for you of how I actually did manage to publish this book for less than $120. And before I go any further, let me just say, I've been on YouTube long enough to know that there are always those keyboard warriors who are like assuming things and they don't bother to listen to the rest of the video. So there's gonna be some disclaimers in this video, and the first one's going to be right here, which is that I did not sacrifice the quality of the editing and the quality of the cover. I did have a professional cover design and professional edits, and I have editorial training as well, so I am more confident in my ability. But again, I did not sacrifice those quality things. I just paid for them with time instead of money, if that makes sense. So we're gonna get into it. I'm very, very excited to do this breakdown, and I'm also going to include, just for kicks and giggles, I have the marketing costs on this paper as well. Spoiler, is still less than anything I've ever spent on a fiction book before, which is wild to me. And before I get into that, let me just say, if you want to know what I've spent on past books, the rough range I would say is anywhere from, I want to say somewhere around $600 for my very first book, and as much as maybe $1,500 maybe. I have baby brain, so don't judge me if I'm totally off on that. My personal goal is to make your money back either release month or release week, even better, or even better before that. But again, I am recording this a week or so before release. What is today? It's Tuesday, so exactly a week before this book actually comes out. I'm pre-filming, so I don't know yet for sure. We'll find out, which means that I am going to save the results type talk for next week's video when I'm hoping to vlog release day. And if you want to watch that, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell next to that subscribe button below, because I'm talking really fast because I'm so excited, because I hope to be able to share some fun stats next week. And we'll see what happens. I'm going to be referring to my handy dandy spreadsheet here that I made for myself. Don't worry, it's nothing special. It's literally just the thing that I paid for and the dollar amount, and then I let it calculate it for me. But I am going to flash these things on the screen, so I'm probably going to scooch over to like right here or so that this side of the screen can share all the numbers. All right, let's get into it. Like I said at the beginning, this video is going to have a lot of disclaimers. So the first one is that this is not by any means a teaching video, okay? Normally I do videos like how to do this and how to do that, and nothing against that. I love helping people, but in this case, this is not something I would have ever done on any of my past fiction books. In fact, it wouldn't have been a possibility. But even going forward, I don't know if I'll be able to duplicate it again. So this is more of a story time, really fun behind the scenes of how I honest to goodness tried to publish this book as cheap as possible. Just so you know, my original goal was $0, so I'm actually over budget, believe it or not. So the first cost is editing. There's some of you who are gonna be like, I know what editors are, I get it, I know how this works, but then there's others of you who are like brand new, and I don't just want to skim over it and assume that you understand. But I will try to do the very quick summary, and then I have editing videos you can go watch below if you want to know more about that. Basically, there's different types of editors you can get. So I've never actually hired a developmental editor because I have critique partners and beta readers, and I work so closely with them that they're able to see developmental issues and help me work those out without needing to pay thousands of dollars for a developmental editor. So the editor that I typically typically work with is a copy editor. And then believe it or not, my strongest editing skill set from my own past, which I won't go into that here, but I have kind of proofreading skills, and I don't do that professionally, so please don't ask me to, but I can do proofreading, and I'm pretty detailed, and so I can do my own proofreading. And then I also ask for help and try to just get as many eyes on the story as possible, because even if you are a good editor and you could do everything yourself, you will still miss things because you're so close to your story. There can be a word that's just slightly misspelled and you've just read it 20 times, so you don't even notice it anymore. You know what I mean? So even though I've always had editors tell me my writing is super, super, super clean, and it just gets more so with each book because I learn with each book and I get better, that doesn't mean that I catch everything. And so I still usually hire a copy editor. And in this case, with this book, my critique partner is a copy editor. At this point, The Secret Gift is actually my 11th published book. So after all of this time, I've seen myself grow. So with each book, I've gotten better and better, and I've grown and I've learned, and I've worked with my critique partner, actually, who is a copy editor, multiple times. And so I know how skilled she is. At this point, I felt confident enough in my abilities plus her abilities. I would not have done this in any of the past books. I did not feel ready then, but at this point, I felt ready to not have to pay for a professional editor. This is gonna be the point where a lot of people leave, and that's fine. But again, this is not a teaching video. This is my personal story. I won't go this detailed on some of the others, although I do have a rant coming up. But anyway, we'll get into that. The next thing is the cover design. And so again, I did have a professional cover designer work on my book, don't get me wrong. But initially, I was paying absolutely nothing. I was paying $0 because my cover designer and I swapped I want to say talents. I don't know exactly how to say this, but again, I have editorial skills as a proofreader, and it's not something I do for just anybody, and it's not something that I take lightly. There's only 3 people in the world that I'm willing to proofread for, and that's my 2 critique partners and my co-author. But this was my co-author, and she needed help with her book, Meet Me at the Summit, which was being published. And so I was really happy to help her. I proofread her book and spent hours on it, and she designed my cover and spent hours on it. We both put in professional quality work. We did not pay each other. We just swapped abilities, I guess you could say. So if it's not clear already, that has been majorly beneficial. And again, the reason that I probably couldn't have done this in the past, because I haven't always had the connections that I have today. I've built them up. I've gotten to know people with different talents, and I'm able to swap abilities with them. But like I said, I ended up deciding to make this a paperback because as I was writing it, the book kept growing and growing, and I was like, okay, this is not the 5,000 word short story or 10,000 word short story that I thought it was going to be. This is a 30,000 plus novella. It's practically a novel. It's like almost 200 pages. As soon as I knew that, I talked to Mandy and I said, hey, can I upgrade this and pay the extra $50 to go to the next package, which would include a paperback? And she was totally fine with that, so she designed a paperback wrap for me, and that made my total cover design $50. Woo, now we're getting into the rant portion here, okay? Because the next fee was uploading to Ingram Spark. And I don't know how familiar you guys are with Ingram Spark. This is one of the publishing on-demand companies that I've worked with in the past, and they are the only company that I'm aware of, at least, that has a fee to upload your book. KDP is free, Draft to Digital is free. This fact that they have an uploading fee has always bothered me personally. I don't feel that it's fair, but I've gotten around it by having a code to make the uploading process free. I got it from a previous cover designer like 3.5 years ago or something. So I have not paid an uploading fee to Ingram Spark since Evelyn's Number, my debut novel. I'm like on my 11th book, right? And I am used to not having to pay this fee. So we get to that point where I go to upload the paperback that I've already paid for, and there's my code doesn't work. I spent I think just an hour or so that day Googling the internet, trying to find a code to make the publishing process free, and I did find one, and it was booked. Just in case you're wondering, for a brief flash in the pan, that code worked. And I was assuming it was like any other code and that it would continue to work going forward, which was, I guess, my mistake, because that turned out to be a one-time use code, or at least it was only useful for uploading and not for revision. I'm sorry for those of you who are like, just numbers, give me the numbers, I want to know. But again, I have to do a disclaimer because there's so many judgy people out there, and there's people who are going to be like, well, why did you upload the book before it's ready? Unfortunately, that's another issue I have with Ingram Spark, which is that they make you upload a file. You absolutely have to upload something to kick off pre-orders. And FYI, this is super normal, not just in indie publishing, but also in trad publishing. I would say like 99.9% of the time, you have pre-orders going before a book is ready. Okay, this is totally normal. But to do that on Ingram Spark, you have to upload like a dummy file, basically, unless you just happen to have this perfectly finished, awesome, wonderful book and you're willing to wait forever and ever during a pre-order period, which is fine if you want to. But I prefer to upload it like a dummy file once I know I can make my pre-order date and I'm further in the process. And then once I finish the book, usually a month or so before release is my kind of sweet spot, that's when I upload the final file. So knowing that, you'll understand how I uploaded for free, didn't think anything of it. I thought, I'm gonna publish this book for $50. This is going to be amazing. And then I came back to upload the final file. I spent, like, honest to goodness, probably 3 hours that day searching for codes, signing up for random things, just absolutely trying everything I could possibly think of. I'm trying to like say this graciously while being frustrated because Ingram Spark has their reasons, and I reached out to them. Okay, I have my computer here. Let me just read this out to you. We had to limit promo code usage because they were being abused by bad actors loading hundreds of undesirable content into our catalog. Unfortunately, I had to significantly restrict codes. By the time I got that email, I had already had to push the book through and just pay the costs and pay $50 because I didn't want to risk that they would start printing the book and be printing, you know, the dummy file basically that I told you about. So it was a total of $50. And like I said, that was not part of my budget, so that was really frustrating to me. I'm gonna keep my rant short because I think I've said enough and I realize I'm rambling. But basically, this was the tipping point for me to not publish on Ingram Spark in the future. I am not okay with paying $50 when you can publish for free elsewhere. And again, I know what people are gonna start commenting. So the reasons that I have been using them despite my frustrations up to this point is because they are the only place I know that does paperback pre-orders wide, meaning to many companies like Book Depository, Barnes & Noble, Target. I'm trying to think and I'm blanking right now, but you get the idea. And then on top of pre-orders, they also offer hardcover options. And so I think there are other places out there. I know that you can obviously publish your paperbacks on Barnes & Noble. People have commented that many times on videos, but you guys, that's just Barnes & Noble. It's not wide. And I've heard of Lulu, I think is the company, but I've not really looked into it. So what I'm trying to say is that I don't have all the answers, but after this experience going forward, I will be searching for a different publisher that can do pre-orders specifically, hopefully publish wide, but in any case, pre-orders of paperback specifically before release, because currently KDP does not offer that. We're gonna close the rant out right here and move on to the last two costs. I'm almost done. So the next thing I did is I ordered a proof copy, which is this guy right here. And this is a Kindle Direct Publishing proof copy. So they put this not for resale bar across the cover all the way up till release day. It's not ideal, but I needed it to do my proofreading, as you can see right here. And KDP is fast. They got me this book in less than a week. It was only $7.12 to get this particular proof copy. In comparison to Ingram Spark, I have ordered a proof copy from them as well. I don't remember the exact date. I'll put it on the screen here for you, and it still hasn't arrived. And I got a shipping notification today that it just shipped out. So it's maybe gonna make it here in time for release, maybe. I would really appreciate that because it's the same exact book, but without this bar across the cover. Everything else is exactly the same, okay? Same amount of pages, haven't changed it, but not only is it taking much longer to get here, that proof copy cost me $12.15. Yeah. All right, drum roll for the total. The total cost of publishing, as I kind of hinted at in this title of the video, is $119.27. Woo, that's exciting. If you've been around for a while, then you know I actually ended up republishing The Secret Gift as a second edition with over 50 pages of brand new content as part of a trilogy instead of a standalone about a year later. So let's take a look at how much it costs to publish a second time. Let's talk about how much I spent to self-publish this book right here. This is one of my favorite videos to do, and it's especially interesting because this is actually a second edition. So I'm gonna share how much I spent to make a second edition, which the number surprised me. And then I will also share at the end a comparison to what I spent on the first edition and a total. So this is a video I've never done before. If you want to know why I did that, I'll link the video about that below. And I will also link the video on the first edition of this book, Expenses, below as well, because spoiler, I managed to do that for very, very cheap, and I will get into why and how in a minute. But before I get into all of this, I literally had to write all down and take notes and look at like my tax expenses and sort through PayPal and my bank account to be like, okay, what did I spend? And so this was actually a revelation to me as well, and I was, like I said, kind of surprised by it. But before I get into that, I just want to say, if you're watching this video on the day that it comes out, it's release day for this beautiful book, and I'm very, very excited about it. I'll put a little description of it on the screen here. If you're curious and want to know more, you can pause it and read through, and I will link Goodreads because there's tons of reviews on there already. I think over 50 reviews, maybe 60 something at this point of recording. And then hopefully there will be quite a few reviews on Amazon and the other vendors as well. So I will link the book below if you want to go ahead and check it out. And I was gonna say pre-order, but it's not a pre-order anymore as of this video. So if you want to go order it and read this book, or if you just want to check out the first few chapters, you can actually read on all the vendors for free. Okay, let's get into it. Are you ready for this? I have 5 expense categories on here, and I will write a nicer version for you to show you because this is very messy. But just so you know going into it what those 5 categories are, we have the cover, the editor or editors, formatting expenses, marketing expenses, and then an other category to just kind of be a catch-all for random things. And you don't necessarily have to spend money on any of them. I think I've said this before, but you can pretty much publish for free. I think I have a video actually about that, publishing on a budget. And of course, if you did see my previous video on the first edition, you know that I did a lot of trading my time and those kind of resources instead of money. So I ended up publishing for a very, very low cost. But this time around, I spent more. Number 1, my cover. I work with Mandy Len at Stone Ridge Book Cover Design, and I have been working with her for many, many books now. She's done my Stolen Kingdom People covers, the collector's edition cover. I just love how that turned out. She did the first edition cover of The Secret Gift when I wanted it to match the Stolen Kingdom series. And then after I did some revamping of that book and realized, like I said in this video, that it's not a standalone novella, but it's actually the first book in a 3-book series, and it is a full novel that I expanded by over 80 pages, so it's quite a bit longer. She did this cover for me as well. And just a little secret, we've also done books 2 and 3. But all that to say, at the time of purchasing my cover from Mandy, she charged $249, but I got a $30 discount for being a very, very long-term client. And so my total that I paid was $219. The second category is editing expenses. You can have many different types of editors. You could hire a developmental editor or a copy/line editor or a proofreader or more than one. You could have all 3 if you wanted to. And so it really just depends on your capabilities and your expertise. So I think when you're first starting out, the more editors, the better, and the more professional help you can get with your story, the better. But this is my 7th novel and like 12th book. But let's just say I have worked with many, many, many editors, and I have gotten a lot of help, and I've learned my strengths and weaknesses. Not to mention I do have an English degree with a creative writing emphasis, and I learned quite a bit about that as well. And I do really, really, really have an eye for spelling type stuff, for just typical proofreading type errors. So my work has always been very clean, and my editors have told me that over the past few years, as I learn my mistakes, it's gotten more and more and more clean because I know what to look for. Plus, on top of that, I kind of mentioned this in that original video as well, I have amazing critique partners, and one of them is actually also an editor. So shout out to Jessie Elliott. She is amazing, and she read the book the first time, and then she read all the changes in the second edition right here as well. So she was my extra eye, but again, we trade time, and I'm planning to read her new series right here, which I'm very excited for her when it comes out in, I think, 3-ish months now. So I'm very thankful for both my critique partners and also my beta readers. So let me just jump back. If you don't know what beta readers are, I have this whole playlist all about them, but I work with them for the developmental edit side of things. So what I do is I create questionnaires, and I'm like, did this character make sense? Does the world building make sense? What do you think of this? And so they are are so amazing. They give me very similar feedback to what a developmental editor would do. Now, it's taken me a long time to find the best of the best beta readers. I just have to say shout out to all of these wonderful beta readers. I also shout them out in the back of my book, and I've asked them for permission in the past if I could share some of their feedback. So I think I have a little bit in this video, but they are legit amazing. It's just readers. That's what it stands for, is readers before the book comes out. That's all you have to do to qualify. The more eyes you can have on your story, the better, honestly, because that allows you to just get more feedback and get an idea of how the book will be received. So anyway, reeling myself back in to the costs. I did not do a developmental editor because I did beta readers. I did not need to do a line or copy editor because I had my critique partner. And then I did not do any proofreading editors because that's my strength, as well as the fact that I have my ARC readers who are very good about letting me know if they see anything last minute. And so far, only one thing, which I fixed. That makes my editing costs a total of $0. For those of you who are like, I'm sure there's errors in the book, so far I've had, again, like over 60 something reviews on Goodreads, and they keep coming in, and I'm so thankful for that, by the way, and I have not had a single complaint. I think that hopefully speaks for itself. The third category is formatting, and for any of you who have been here even like more than a month, you probably already know this. I've said it a lot, but I have built up a lot of formatting expertise over the last 5 years of being a self-published author. So I have this full video series on how I personally format my novels myself for free. I'm not going to go into it because again, that's like hours of content right there where I've broken it down, but my total cost for formatting is $0. The reason I even mention this category at all is because sometimes people will hire formatters to just make it look really clean, and other times you might buy like a software such as Vellum, which is a very good software that I've heard good things about, but I just feel the most comfortable doing the formatting myself in Word. All right, category number 4 is marketing, and this is always the most complicated section. I have 3 different categories here. So the first one is I worked with Sapphire Ink, and I got the Book Blast package, which is usually $90 at the time I got it anyway, and I got a discount for working with her because I've worked with her in the past. So cool thing about that was it was only $72 to get a book blast on both cover reveal day, and then I will also have one on release day. The second thing that I put a lot of marketing budget into is my pre-order incentives. So I actually did 5 different pre-order incentives, gifts that I give to readers in exchange for buying / pre-ordering the book. Out of those 5 pre-orders, 2 of them are digital, which means all I had to do is put my time and energy into it, didn't have to pay anything. The third one was that giveaway, the $50 Amazon giveaway, and I'm lucky enough that I got that for free for spending so much money on my credit card. So I had put, I think I told you guys this in the past, like all of my hospital bills on a credit card, which we paid off with some insurance money, but it was a total of over $30,000 from giving birth to a baby, okay? And that's like 50% off. FYI. And so after we used the credit card to pay it, and then we got reimbursed for that, thankfully, I had so many of those credit card rewards, I think they're called, that I was able to get a bunch of gift cards. So I used a $50 gift card as one of the incentives, but I did not have to pay for it, thankfully. So the only things that I did have to pay for were the sticker sheets and the signed book plates. And then of course, actually stamps and envelopes, right? Let's start with stamps. I had to go look and see how many people have signed up so far for the pre-order incentives. And just keep in mind that a small percentage of people who pre-order actually go and sign up for these gifts. I think so far, the people who decided they also wanted the gifts and signed up for it, I had, at the time of writing this list, I had 56 people, but then I went and did the math and it's now 66 people. So we'll see. I have another week until release, so this might get a little bit larger, but for the sake of doing the math, let's say stamps are, I think they're 50 cents now, right? And that was times, I put 60 people, I rounded up when I made this. So it was $30, let's say maybe closer to 40 actually. I'm just gonna make a mental note about that. Fortunately, the envelopes are free because I actually have a ton of old envelopes left from other things, so I'm just gonna use those. The book plates, I used this right here and they turned out very, very cute. Let me just show you how cute these are. I'm very excited about them. That cost $14.64, so we'll round up to 15. And then I got my sticker sheets, which I would show you, but I used mine already, from Mandy Lanigan. She has this amazing sticker shop as well. And so I was like, hey Mandy, can I do a bulk order from you? And she gave me a nice discount for that. So it was $1.50 per sticker sheet. And again, I did the math for 60. So I'm gonna have to add to that. Shoot. 60 sheets was $90. So let's round up and say maybe $100, and then also shipping, which I don't know how much that's gonna be. So I'm gonna round up to, let's say 115 as just a guesstimate. I haven't done it yet, so I'm estimating slightly, but that's pretty close. Oh, and then I also had a note here that I have so far 10 people are international. So their stamps cost, I think, $1 instead of 50 cents, pretty sure, hopefully. So that would be $10. So the total for my pre-order incentives is $170. Whew, okay, and then last but not least, the third item is still a secret. I don't want to reveal it just yet because it's not done until mid-December, I think. So I should be revealing that in January 2023. Subscribe if you want to find out when I'm ready to share, but that was a $50 expense. So our total for the marketing section is $292 in marketing. The last category is my other category, and that just covers any miscellaneous expenses that didn't fit under the other four. So for me, there's only one thing in this category, which is my ISBN number for the paperback. Back in, gosh, 2 or 3, maybe 4 years ago now, I went on Bowker, which is where you buy ISBNs in the US. If you want to pay for them, you can also get them for free. That's a whole other video. But I bought the package of 10 ISBN numbers for $295. And so if you divide that by 10, because I only used one this time around, it would be $29.50, or let's round up to $30 for this book. All right, we ready for the grand total, adding everything up? We've got $219 for the cover, $292 for all the marketing, $30 for the ISBN, makes a total of $541 for this book. That's just the second edition, you guys. After all these books that I published, I found that the less I can spend up front, the happier I am, because it makes the money back like right away, before release or during release. So that first edition made its money back, I think, before the book even came out. And that was such a huge relief. Now, it's so funny to me. Like I said, I was surprised when I did the math for this video, and I was like, I spent more than I did on the first edition? Like, holy cow. But then I remembered that my goal this time around is to spend quite a bit up front on this series, because of the fact that there's now a book 2 and a book 3. So you're always constantly marketing book 1 in a series, and I wanted to get the word out in whatever way possible. And some of that meant giving away more copies of the book starting out of the gate, because I wanted to do as many ARC readers as were interested, and that is a little bit scary all in itself. But the way I see it is that if this book is truly as good as I hope that it is, somebody's up, then it will stand for itself. And I've already had people who are ARC readers who are like, I bought the book. And you guys, that means so much. You have no idea. Like, I'm so happy that you guys like it. I seriously have been like on the edge of my seat for a couple months now, hoping that you would love this book and love the story. And obviously the first edition was very well received, but like I talked about in these videos about why I unpublished it and why I decided to do a second edition, I just felt like it wasn't reaching as many readers as it could because it was too short. And so again, added quite a bit. As you can see here, it's no longer a novella. If you see reviews that say novella, that's talking about the old first edition, and that's not the case anymore. Can't believe it's out now. Sorry, it's just hitting me that it's out now. Even though the pre-order was exclusive to Barnes & Noble, it will now be available internationally to all my international readers on Amazon. The paperback should definitely be live by the time this video is out, so I will link it below if you want to go read it and support me. It means so much to me. Thank you. And now I better go get little Zion and yeah, just enjoy these feelings. Oh my gosh. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. I also can't believe how much I spent. But what about the marketing for Author series? This is a series that I've actually never done a dedicated video on, but I have kind of slipped in the facts into other videos. So here's a fun tidbit about this series that myself and my co-author, Mandy Lynn, wrote together. Technically, I wrote 2 of the books and she wrote 3 of the books, and then we worked together to edit and create covers and create blurbs and market and publish these books together. We did not have to spend anything on publishing these books except to order proof copies at the end to check the final quality of the book. So Mandy and I have really awesome skill sets that work together combined to create quality books for basically for free. Mandy is a cover designer. She's done quality book cover designs for many years now. And I actually have a background in editing because that's what I originally went to school for, and what I wanted to do is work as an editor for a publishing house. So I have a skill set and some past experience in editing books. Now, I've talked about this already in this video, so I won't harp on it, but I do think it's really important to still have other sets of eyes. I don't think anybody can make a quality book all by themselves in a bubble. No matter how amazing they are, there will still be mistakes. So we also worked with beta readers and author friends to kind of make sure that we were putting out the highest quality books we could. And we were able to do that for just the cost of proof copies to check the final books before pressing publish. So a proof copy for these books, since they're a little smaller, including shipping, was about $10, but of course we had to order one each. So 5 books times $10 is $50 each. So for me, $50 for this series was all I had to spend. Keep in mind there was marketing costs, but we're not talking about marketing, we're talking about publishing. Okay, well, what about the collector's edition of the Stolen Kingdom series, you might be asking? Was that also $0? No. Although I did not have to spend any money on editing, since of course these books had already been edited in the past and I was just putting them together, and I do my own formatting, so I didn't have to spend anything on that. I did still have to get a cover. So let's check out my video on that. This video is super straightforward. We're gonna find out together exactly how much money I spent to create this beautiful classic cover edition of the book, or books I should say, and also how much I spent to publish it. Let's break down the cost of that first. And I'm not going to count the cost that I spent on the individual books because those were way in the past. Those made their money back. I'm only going to talk about the cost that I specifically had to do once I decided to make this collector's edition itself, which means that editing is not one of the costs that I had to do because all those books were previously edited, so I did not have to pay anything for editing. I also did not have to pay anything for formatting because if you guys have been around a while, you know that I do my own formatting, and I have this video series here which you can watch if you want to know more about how I format my books to be published, and I'll link that below. And then I also did not have to pay an uploading fee, which if you've watched this video about where I publish and why and how, then you know I publish a few different places. One of them has an uploading fee, but this book I only published on KDP, which does not have an uploading fee. And in the same way, they also give authors free ISBN numbers, so I did not pay for an ISBN number. If you don't know what that is, don't worry about it. It's a whole other video, but just know that sometimes you can pay for them, and in this case, I didn't. So what did I pay for? Well, I paid for 4 things. I had this gorgeous cover, which as you can see is like stunning. Some swag that I could give people who ordered the book in the first week. I also had these for proof copies, which is just a fancy word in publishing for test copies to make sure that it worked. And then of course, the final copy. I'm gonna count buying this guy because I wanted to have it on my shelf and I had to pay for it. Let's break it down. First, the cover costs. I worked with Mandy Lynn, who's my awesome cover designer at Stone Ridge Books Cover Design, and she charged me $250 total. I'm counting the whole $250, but technically $200 of that I had paid her over a year ago, almost a year and a half, 2 years ago. Gosh, how long has it been? When we were working on redesigning these covers with the princesses on the front, and I did pay her for the paperbacks as well, but over time I have just kind of left the original paperbacks because you guys like them so much. And so I was like, Mandy, I don't know if I want to recover the paperbacks anymore. I kind of am happy with them as they are, and I like having 2 different covers. There's a whole cover saga if you want to know more. I do have, gosh, a bunch of videos. I think I have a whole cover design playlist. I'll link a few videos below where I explain kind of the evolution of having 2 covers. But long story short, I was like, can I use my cover credit for something else instead? Because I have this idea, this shiny idea. And so she was like, sure, all you have to do is pay a little bit more and then you have the total cover cost. So technically I only paid in 2021 $50 for this cover. But again, I'm going to count the whole $250. Then we've got our swag here. Technically, I had book plates left over from BookCon 2019, so I don't even know what this cost. Same thing with the bookmarks. These were made a long time ago, but I did go and print out character art from my amazing patron, Margarita Lapina, and she is, oh my gosh, she's incredible. I'll link her page below for these. And actually, this character art is by another patron, Ingrid Nordley, and I'll link her below as well if you want to check these 2 ladies out. I essentially did a pre-order campaign, but I did it in release week instead. So it was like a release week campaign where it was an incentive to buy the book during that release week and you could get these goodies. So I printed 2 of each for 50 people. So a total of 100 pictures times 39 cents. It cost me $39. I also had to buy the envelopes and the stamps, and there were a few I think there were 8 that were international stamps, which are a little bit more expensive. So I think it was roughly $70 or a little bit under, but we'll round up to 75 to count the cost of these that I don't even know anymore. And I also gave away digital gifts, which are linked here in the back of this book. So I gave away Q&A with me, bonus short story from Gideon's perspective, my Spotify playlist for the whole series, more character art, series maps, a series glossary, and more. And also book-related merch. And I think that's it for right now. That webpage is, again, only linked in this book right now. It's a secret webpage, but eventually I will make it public. But the point is that all the digital gifts were free. And then last but not least is paying for all of these huge copies. This first one was $11.78. So we're going to go ahead and just do the math here. $11.78 times 5 is $58.90, which we'll just round up to $59 for a grand total of $384. Or if you don't count that cover credit and you only count what I spent this year, then I spent $184 this year to create this collector's edition. But we're gonna count that cover credit. So let's go back to KDP and see in a second here if the collector's edition made its money back. Okay, I think we should also include The Secret Shadow and The Secret Curse. And now, again, if you've been around and you know these books, then you know The Secret Shadow literally just came out on June 20th, 2023. And The Secret Curse, book 3 in the series, is actually not coming out until January 2024. Obviously, I haven't done a video on these, and book 3 isn't even done. But I can say at this point in my career, I'm pretty confident what I will spend, and that is going to be cover design, which I've already spent and is already completed, and then the proof copies, of course, because as you can probably tell by this point in the video, I've really streamlined my process and figured out what I do need and what I don't need. And so I don't hire editors because I have, again, editing skills, but I also have critique partners and beta readers who help me. And also my ARC readers have been really, really valuable too. And I have people who come in to help me proofread. And so with all these extra sets of eyes and my own skill set, I just don't need to hire an editor at this point, which is awesome. I'm kind of jumping the gun on what I would and would not change if I could go back, but I just want to say that I would not change working with editors because I think I really needed that experienced outside help when I was first starting out. There were so many things that I didn't know that my editors have taught me along the way, and each editor that I worked with taught me something different. I learned so many cool things that have helped my writing really grow and mature, and I still want to learn, and I still try to read craft books to continue growing. So I would not change that, and I would not recommend to a debut author to skip an editor. I think for the first book especially, it's almost a master class in editing that teaches you things that will apply to all the books down the road. So I think it was really valuable, and I also am really thankful that I got to work with different editors because they each had a different skill set and taught me different things. And of course, I do all my book formatting myself. We've talked about that a ton in this video, but I will link below my book formatting guide because I put everything I know into one comprehensive video for you. What else has changed? I have stopped purchasing ISBN numbers. So I had originally purchased 10 ISBN numbers from Bowker, which is where you can buy them in the US. And when they ran out, I just didn't purchase anymore. I was like, you know what? I'm good. Every single print-on-demand company that I currently work with has free ISBN numbers. So I just started using the ISBN numbers from those companies. And just keep in mind, because I know I'm going to get questions on this video, that no, you can't use a free ISBN from one company on a different company. If Amazon's KDP gives you a free one, you can only use it there. If Ingram Spark gives you a free one, you can only use it there. If Barnes & Noble or Draft Digital give you a free ISBN, you can only use it with that company, but that's okay. I don't have a problem with that. So I get the free ISBN number personally. And of course, I always am going to buy proof copies to double check that the book looks good, all the formatting is good, and it gives me a chance to proofread the physical book before publishing. So I don't think I'll ever change that expense to have a proof copy before the book comes out, which by the way is the same as an author copy. It's just a copy of the book. That leaves me with really only one big expense on the publishing side these days, and that's the cover design. And the really cool thing is that I'm excited to potentially learn how to design my own covers. This is not something I take lightly because a cover is literally the biggest marketing tool your book will ever have. And so I'm not sure if I can learn these skills or not, but there are classes out there. One in particular, my friend Mandy Lynn has just set up, and I'm taking it in advance. So I'll put more info below once her course is live because it's coming out fairly soon. But I'm going to attempt to learn cover design, because if I can get the skill set to make quality covers, that's the important key thing, that fit with the genre, that readers will love, and that will sell the book, really important factors there, then I could potentially make my covers for the cost of Photoshop instead of the much larger costs of paying a designer every single time I want a book cover. This is a new thing. I'm not sure. I'm not going to promise it because maybe I won't be good at it. And I think it's really important to have quality covers. But I will link Mandy's course below if you want to consider the option for yourself. Okay, I should have been more prepared, but I finally found the invoice for books 2 and 3 cover design from Mandy at Stone Ridge Books. And so are you ready for this? We're going to go ahead and share what I spent on books 2 and 3 with the cover design and the proof copy. All right, Mandy is currently charging $475 for the package that I'm doing. So I not only bought this a while back, over a year ago, before she raised her prices some, but I had also gotten the returning client discount. So keep in mind that this is not what her covers cost anymore, and I would have to pay pretty much twice as much at this point to hire Mandy. But found my invoice, and I paid for these 2 covers $219 each for a total of $438 for the 2 covers. Let me stop here. I just remembered that there was one other cover design expense that should not have happened, but I needed it to happen because of all the drama that went down with the proofreading of The Secret Shadow. If you watched that video, then you know what I'm talking about. So I had to ask Mandy to redo the cover wrap for uploading to Barnes & Noble because they gave me the wrong template specifications and they changed things. And of course, I didn't find out till the very last minute, so I had to pay Mandy a rush fee, and then I also asked her if she could make me an Ingram Spark cover wrap backup. So total together, those 2 things cost me $50. And then there's the 2 proof copies. So I have The Secret Shadow proof copy right here, and this costs $15 total with the printing and shipping to me. And obviously I don't have a proof copy for book 3 yet because I'm not at this stage for book 3. I'm still towards the beginning of the editing process, but I assume it'll cost about the same. So $15 times 2 is $30 for proof copies. All right, I'm gonna use a calculator. $518 for books 2 and 3 in the Queen's Rise series. It's time to add it all up. Are you ready? Because I'm not sure I am. I've got all the costs listed out here, and I realize that some of them might include marketing, but we're just gonna go with it because at this point it's getting really muddled and there's a lot of books. So Evelyn's number was $680 total. The Confident Corgi, I actually spent $131. I always think it's less, but there's all those little expenses I forget about. Pearl's number was $1,540, and that increase again was pretty much all editor. For the Stolen Kingdom series, all 4 books put together was $4,714 for all 4 books. Then we have the first edition of The Secret Gift, which, as you know, was $120. And then the second edition of The Secret Gift, in that video I kind of merged in the marketing, so I had to go back and take it out, and it was a total of $249 for publishing that book. Hold on, I forgot to include the marketing for author series again. 5 books times $10 per proof copy is $50 total for that series. And then the collector's edition, I have written down $383 total. Oh, and I went ahead and added The Secret Shadow and The Secret Curse, which is to be published in January just for fun. So the total for those 2 books is $518. Before we get our grand total, I want to know what my trilogy is going to cost for all 3 books, including first and second edition of book 1. So let's do that math first. $887 for the trilogy. Before I get frustrated with that because of publishing book 1 twice, I have to remember that the other fantasy series was almost $5,000. So you know what? I'll take it. I'll take it. Okay, the grand total is $8,385 for all, how many is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 17 books. Wow, that's actually not as much as I expected, and so that just tells me that my marketing expenses probably were quite a bit higher than I thought. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, that's wild. So I hope that was fun to see, but now let's really quick answer some of those common questions. The biggest one I always get is, did I make my money back? And so the good news is, yes, I absolutely always have made my money back on these books. Some of them before the release, some of them during release week, and some of them, most of them were during release week, and then there was like one or two that were more release month. Off the top of my head, I know for sure my debut Evelyn's number was before release because I did a Kickstarter. If you know anything about that, then you know people are funding the project before they get the book. So it's basically a pre-order with some fun extra incentives. And so that book was more than paid for. That was covered. Another one that was really, really good was the Stolen Kingdom series because I ended up working with a book box. So Once Upon a Book Club purchased 700 copies of that book. So that plus my pre-orders more than covered my expenses for book one, and that was paid for before release as well. What else? The Confident Corgi, that was definitely paid for before release. And then of course the Marketing for Authors series, we spent nothing except the proof copies, which were $15 each. So that was probably actually the most profitable release looking back because we were able to just come out of the gate making money like right away. The first edition of The Secret Gift definitely made its money back because I remember that was very minimal expenses. My latest books, however, I would say that they've gotten less pre-orders than in the past, and I've heard this is true for TradPub too, that pre-orders are just a little bit harder to get these days. I'm not sure why, but so far for the Queen's Rise series, including first edition and second edition of book one, they've made their money back. I think most of them release week, or maybe one of them was release month. The one book that I published that has not made its money back, and which I did not actually include in this video, is the audiobook. And so that's a whole other story. I have a video about audiobooks. I'll link it below if you want to watch more about that. But the short version is that not only do I not understand how to publish them, but they are by far the most expensive thing I have ever had to produce. It was over $1,000 all on its own for the narrator, who is a wild expense in my opinion. And then I've made so little back from it, and I am just now, like I think it's this month or next month, I'm not totally sure. I'd have to go back and look at my tracking to see exactly where it's at, but I am roughly about to break even any day now, and it's been out for years. The third most common question, which I kind of answered at the beginning of this video, is does this include my marketing budget? And the answer is no. I decided not to include that mainly because I've made some really dumb marketing decisions and spent money on some really goofy things. I think my biggest regret was the, what's it called? Kirkus reviews. I think that that's something that could be valuable in TradPub, and if I understand it right, it's a way to help you maybe seem more desirable to libraries and booksellers, I think, just because it's a known reviewer. So since you can't like guarantee like a New York Times bestseller or a USA Today bestseller, which are two other really big, credible things that would make booksellers and librarians interested in your book, I think Kirkus reviews maybe is one of the bigger ones, but that's such a TradPub thing, and it made absolutely no dent in my sales on Indie. It meant absolutely nothing to most of my readers. They did not care. So I could have easily just used a regular review from someone on Goodreads or Amazon, or even one of my critique partners or ARC readers or another author friend, and it would have had just as much credibility. I'm gonna stop myself there because I could go on and on and on. That's a whole other video. But I will say, if you want to hear my different marketing costs for most of these books, I did share it in those videos. So I will link all those older videos below if you're curious and want to watch the full videos for each of those to find out the marketing side. If you've made it all the way till the end of this video, comment, let's see, what would be funny? Publishing is no joke, and like $10 signs or something. Everyone else watching will be like, what the heck is this? But you and I, we will know. So thank you for watching all the way through. I really appreciate it. It helps me out so much. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. It really helps my channel, and I will talk to you guys again very soon. Bye. Then all